24 here, they give us a cosine, they give us a sine of two different angles, alpha and beta. Fortunately, they have a common denominator that will probably be helpful for us. And we now need to find these. We'll come back to, well, certainly we'll do the tangent and laughs, but what we'll look at is cosine of alpha, since we know, let's see, let's go with a new color. So cosine of alpha is 12 over 13, and it's in the fourth quadrant. Okay, that's what that's saying. So what we get is it's down here, some angle. And with this knowledge that it's 12 over 13, remember cosine of an angle, is alpha, is going to be adjacent over hypotenuse. So you can say that this is 12, this is 13. And so we could figure out what this last side is, right? Because a squared plus b squared has to equal c squared. So and we know a and c. So we subtract that. So what is b squared going to be? Take the square root of both sides. It's going to be, right, so b is the square root. Take the square root of both sides. So that's what that side's going to be. So we get 13 squared minus 12 squared. 13 squared is 169. 12 squared is 144. Take its square root. That's subtract the 2, we get 5. 25. Well, that's a nice number, convenient. It's 5. So this other side is 5. What that helps us is because we look at these formulas of a sum, so cosine of sum is, so we're going to use that one there. We need the cosine and the sine of alpha. We're also going to need the cosine of beta. We've got the sine of beta, so we use that. What that allows us to do is come back and say, well, okay, then what is the sine of alpha? Well, it is going to be opposite over hypotenuse, 5 over 13. Okay, so we've got that part. Knowing the second part, that we've got the sine of beta, and it's in the quadrant 3, so we'll draw it this way. It's over here, some triangle, right triangle, is equal to negative 6 over 13. So that makes sense. It's coming down. Here's our negative 6. So we just think of the measurement as 6. The hypotenuse is 13. So what would be the a value, the x right here? Well, we use the Pythagorean theorem again, but this time we take the square root of 13 squared minus 6 squared, which gives us 169 minus 36, and 6 from 9 is 3, 3 from 6, so that's 133. Did I get that right? Let's see. Yeah, square root of 133, which is not well, that's what it is. You can't reduce this any, I don't think. 3 doesn't go into it. I guess that's what we end up with. That's kind of strange, but it is what it is. Simplify your answer. Type an exact answer using radicals. Need to rationalize. So we're supposed to come up with that. Okay. just I didn't want to accept it, but so what's our cosine of beta will be equal to, again, here's beta here, adjacent over hypotenuse. Okay, so now we just put all of this together. Let's see, got this value, got this value, and then we're going to come back. So what is cosine of alpha plus beta? Cosine of alpha plus beta is cosine cosine minus sine sine. Okay, cosine cosine. So it's sorry about this. So we get cosine of alpha, well, you could write it out, but the cosine of alpha, let's just go ahead and write the answer, the values. So cosine of alpha is 1213 times the cosine of beta, square root of 133 over 13. And the plus, when you have the plus, you have a minus. Now we get the sine of alpha, sine of beta. Sine of alpha is 5/13, and sine of beta, well, be careful here. Since we are in the fourth quadrant, it tells us fourth quadrant, this value here needs to be negative. So I wasn't watching that. Since we are in the third quadrant, right, sorry, fourth quadrant, since we're in the third quadrant here, sine is negative, but cosine is also negative. So let's come back here, get our critical place, and then we get, what do we get? We get sine of beta. Sine of beta is negative 6 over 13. So we get a fraction with a denominator of 169, 169. I'm just going to make a common denominator. 13 times 13, 169. On this side we get a negative 12 square root of 133. Nothing we can do with that. Here we get a negative times a negative, and then this other negative. So we get positive, but then the negative returns, so that's minus 5 times 6 is 30. And that's what we got there. Okay, so this would be our answer. For sine of alpha plus beta, sine of alpha plus beta, we're using this formula here. So it's the sine of alpha times the cosine of beta plus the sine of beta times the cosine of alpha. Sine of alpha, negative 5/13. Cosine of beta, negative square root of 133 over 13. We're multiplying. And then sine of the plus has a plus in between, so we're going to add this, and then we get the sine of beta, which is negative 6/13 times the cosine of alpha, which is positive 12/13. Okay, 13 times 13, that's 169. The first time you get negative 5 times negative 1 square root of 133. Negative times negative is positive 5 square root of 133. Nothing we can do there. We get a plus in the middle, but we've got a negative times a positive, so that's in the middle changes to a negative. 6 times 12 is 72. It's 2, carry the 1, 6, yeah, 72. So that's our answer for this one. Now tangent, we'll look, oh, there's no tangent angle thing. And that's okay, because what we remember is that tangent is sine over cosine. And in A and B, we've gotten the cosine and we've gotten the sine. So this is where it gets, so we're going to take sine and put it on top. Let's see, where are we going to go with this? I'll write it over here. So sine goes on top. Square root of 133 minus 72 over 169. That's sine over the fraction negative 12 square root of 133 minus 30 over 169. This one we may have some problem with rationalizing the denominator. So when you've got two fractions being divided, the one on the bottom flips and multiplies. So we get 5 square root of 133 minus 72. When we flip the second one, so notice the 169 is in the bottom. I guess maybe I should write it out. I'll just take that extra step. We're going to multiply by the bottom flipped. So 169 over negative 12 square root 133 minus 30. 169's cancel, and so there's our fraction, but they want us to rationalize the denominators, right? How do we do that? Well, we've got 5 square root of 133 minus 72 over negative 12 square root of 133 minus 30. I just keep wishing that the other one, 6 and 13 was different, but it's not. So then to rationalize this, we multiply by the conjugate. It's really a mess. The conjugate would be, I guess you could factor out a negative, right? And so these, think of these as both positive. So we'll factor out the negative. Put the negative out here. Make that a plus and that a plus. Okay. So what would be the conjugate of this? Well, think of this as 30. We want a negative here, so we'll go negative 12 square root of 133 plus 30. So that'll allow the radical part to cancel out, or the middle term, and so up here multiply by negative 12 square root of 133 plus 30, and we'll have our answer. Okay, so doing foiling, this is so 12 times 12, we've got a plus and a minus, right? That's going to be 144. 12 times 12, we've got a negative. So what I'm doing is I'm just multiplying these two. Got the negative on the outside, so that's this negative here. So that's 12 times 12 is 144. Square root of 133 times square root of 133 is 133. Okay, so that's that part. we get this times a plus 30, so this would give us a positive value. I don't care what it is, because then I get that same value as a negative, so that's that middle term that would plus and minus out, right? And then I get 30 times 30, so I have to take 30 times 30. That's going to be 900, and that's a plus. Okay, so there's this negative, and so that's the denominator. Do we really need to do it up here? I guess so. They want it simplified. So far, let's come here. 144 times 133. Get my calculator. So 144 times 133. Wow, it's pretty big. And then that's negative. Let's put a negative on it. Then we're going to add 900. So we end up with 18,252 negative, and then there's this negative on the outside, so it's going to be positive. 18,252. In the numerator, we're going to multiply the first two. So 5 times 12, it's going to have a negative on it. 5 times 12 is 60. Square root of 133 times 133 is 133. So that's that one. Then we get 5 times 30, square root of 133, so that's plus 5 times 30 will be 150, square root of 133. And then we get this negative 72. That came from the 6. Okay, so that's good. Negative 72 times 12. Maybe this ends up being something nice. I don't know. 72 times negative. So negative and negative is going to make it positive. 72 times 12 is 864. Negative and negative make it a positive. 864 square root of 133. Keep the fraction going. And then finally we get 72 times 30. This is one definitely, when I see it, I said, oh, let's come back to it later. So then we get a negative 2160. Let's go ahead and do the 60 times 133. It's a negative 7980. Okay, so we took care of that. So combining, we've got negative 7980, negative 2160. So we can add those together because they're both negative, so we become more negative. So we combine that, that's going to be a negative 10,140. 150 plus 864, square root of 133, so that's going to be plus 9, let's see, 4, so 4, 5 and 6 is 11, carry the 1, 9, 10, 10, 4, 1014 square root of 133 all over 18,252. Wow, that was a lot of work. And that should be the tangent. Again, well, we've made it this far. I'm here. I got to do this anyway. So let's just check these answers so you can see for yourself. Again, I wouldn't. Oh shoot! Now where did it go? It left. Well, I'll check it. This is what it is. All right. Take care.